Hello, everybody. Welcome along. It's another edition of the Cricket Badger podcast. Good to have you with us, whether you're watching on the live stream or listening later. Always good to have you with us. We're on about episode number 507 now, so getting through them, cracking on, and very happy to say we're joined by the Chief Executive of Leicestershire County Cricket Club today, Sean Jarvis. Sean, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks, James. It's a real privilege to be on. Delighted and looking forward to it. I've seen a few of the questions on Twitter, so hopefully I can answer all of those.
See, that's cheating. That's cheating, really. But we'll let you get away with that one. Let's get straight into the questions because I've got quite a few for you here. Jacob, he's been in touch with us on the tweets. He says, "How did you get into cricket and this job? Because you were appointed at Leicester. Was it March 2020? You got the job."
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm a Leicester lad. I was born and bred in Leicester, but I moved up to Yorkshire when I was 18. Studied up in Yorkshire, there in Leeds, which I'm sure we'll come to at some point.
So you came to the bright side then.
and my dad was a huge cricket man. He was a second class umpire down here in Leicester and well regarded. So he kind of got me into cricket when I was a young kid. And in fact, Grace Road, it was the very first sports ground that I came to. So in the days of Brian Davison, Roger Tolchard and co. And I used to sit here while he kind of went off and chatted to the committee room, and he used to watch the games and loved it and fell in love with cricket then. But then when I moved to Yorkshire, studied up there, I then started gravitating in sport in my career. So I'd spent 10 years in the advertising industry in the late 80s, which was great fun, real exciting time, lots of red braces and big mobile phones and all that sort of thing. But I was got myself involved in the shifting of rugby league from a winter sport to summer sport. I then did a bit of work around the Premier League. I then spent 7 years working with Oldham Athletic. And then 15 prior to coming back to Leicester, 15 years spent at Huddersfield Town, which was a great time. And I was involved in taking the club from League One, as it was then, into the Premier League. So over 25, nearly 30 years of sports marketing. And I then was seeing what was kind of happening at Leicestershire in that period. I was at Huddersfield Town, and I was really saddened to sort of see this gradual decline of the club. So I then got approached by one of the board directors here, sort of saying, "Would you like to be a non-exec director?" So I said, "Look, I can give you a year of my time to try and help, use my experience to try and guide it as best I can from my sort of perspective, my experience that I picked up over those 30 years." So I came down for a year and sort of offloaded some of the knowledge that I'd got. And then there were a few changes at the club, and the chair at the time, a lady called Mahmouda Duke, she approached me and said, "Look, we want you to be the chief exec." And because it's my hometown club and coming back to my dad, who has been passed away for 20 years now, his ashes are actually scattered out there at Grace Road, wow, at the square leg. I remember me and my family scattered, so he haunts me every single night. So I'm kind of come back home to try and turn around the fortunes of the club, and that's what we're doing. We kind of pressed the reset button during COVID and trying to rebuild it along with Paul Nixon, Claude Henderson, the staff here, etc. So a lot of work to do, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
I've seen you quoted as saying it's kind of in your DNA, and obviously with your dad's kind of present at the ground every day. I mean, I guess you care, don't you?
Yeah, and I think for me that's it really. I'm knocking on the best part of, I'm closer to 60 than I am 50, put it that way. And I want to use the experience that I've picked up to my hometown club. So this for me is kind of a little bit, I guess, in my swan song to try and make it successful and really put it on the right kind of path. And hopefully we can pick up a bit of silverware along the way. How long I'm going to be here for, I don't know. I've always sort of said that the moment that I believe staff don't need me, that's the time I can walk away. So, when that will be, who knows? But here and now, I'm giving it all I can to try and turn around the fortunes of the club, really.
What kind of things, Sean, can you take from rugby league, football, and some of the other places you've been into cricket? Because cricket's a kind of fairly peculiar sport in a way, but it's, I guess a lot translates across business to business and sport to sport.
Yeah, most definitely. Sport at the end of the day is about one team versus another, or one individual versus another, and winning that competition, if you like. So it's not that different, in terms of finances. Yeah, the Premier League is a quantum leap from where cricket is, and a top earning cricketer at county level would be 2 days' salary for a professional footballer in the Premier League. So it is different in that sense. But at the end of the day, it's all about winning. It's an entertainment business, and what I saw a lot of in football was that people have these big attitudes, and at the end of the day, we're in an entertainment business. We're here to entertain people. We're not saving lives by creating heart surgery. So come down off your peg and get stuck into what you've got to do. And I think for me, that's what we're trying to do here at Leicestershire is create a proper entertainment business that is a winning culture. And those, I learned an awful lot from David Wagner when he came to Huddersfield, and his attitude and his whole ethos around how sport should work was brilliant. And I'm trying to bring that, a little bit of that to here at Grace Road. So, what, having spent 30 years in sport, what good looks like, and it's no real different. Yeah, I do think cricket is incredibly challenging because you've got 3/4 different formats. Mentally, it's incredibly tough. The guys are out there for 4 days, and the game can chop and change, and mentally you've got to be on it. So there are those little nuances, but at the end of the day, you do know what good looks like. And I think for me, cricket needs to improve its professionalism a bit more. And I think football, what I've seen in football, they are more technologically advanced. They've got those kind of finances behind them that allow them to do that. But I do think cricket is starting to catch up. I think it's starting to come through. So who knows? I think over the years it will improve and we will get better.
I often think, Sean, because as you know, I worked at Yorkshire for a bit and kind of communication side of stuff. And I think if you believe in what you're trying to get across and you're enthusiastic about it, that takes you a long way, doesn't it? And that, you strike me as somebody that has that, you're ticking those boxes at Leicester.
Yeah, definitely. It becomes infectious, doesn't it? And I think as long as you have the right people around you that believe in that vision, believe how to deliver that vision, sometimes they may get a bit confused or not quite understand it. But as long as you can come back to that and have that single vision that this is what we want to achieve, and how we get there and how quick we get there is down to the people. And one thing that I've seen in sports clubs and businesses, having dealt with them over the years, is that if you've got that vision at the top and that belief at the top with the general and the people around it, the rest follow suit. People who buy into that vision will stay with the business and stay with the club. Others that don't, they will disappear. And I think that becomes incredibly powerful when you have that that collective belief that you can actually achieve something. And when I was at Huddersfield, we talked about it being terrier spirit, and that it's interesting. I bumped into the old chairman who's now back as chairman recently, and he's brought that back, and it counts for an awful lot. And I think it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a while. It took us 4, 5, 6 years to create that terrier spirit. But when you get it and the stars align, it becomes very, very potent and very, very powerful. And I think that's where we're kind of headed. Credit to Derbyshire. I saw a little bit of Derbyshire have that kind of spirit with Mickey Arthur, when they played us recently. So credit to them. And I think we've got to create our own DNA, our own vision, our own desire, our own passion to sort of drive the club forward.
When I was working in Yorkshire, about 2008, I had an idea that we should have posters, because I'd seen, you go into a pub toilet and you see the Sky posters about the football matches that are coming up over the next week. And I was thinking, if you get Jim and Fred and they're having a game of pool on a Friday night and they say, oh, we're off next week, what are we going to do? You want to put cricket in front of their faces. Nobody at Yorkshire wanted to invest any money in that, but I've seen you've done something very similar to that. You've also had the 4,000 free tickets thing, which I saw last week. Jason sent in the question, after donating 4,000 free tickets, how do you think other clubs can replicate such an idea? How do you target that to the people that you're looking to try and attract, and how do you get them to come back in again after they've been once? But all of these kind of things, to me, they're not rocket science. These things, these are quite simple things that you're doing, but they're obvious and they're very sensible.
Yeah, very simple, very straightforward. And I think you can't just do it once. You've got to keep going and keep, it's this constant drip feed, sustained approach of how you attract people, get people involved, get them engaged. And, it's not a flick of a switch, not a silver bullet. It's many silver bullets that you've got to fire. I mean, it's interesting. Yeah, I'll support your county initiative. I'll let you into a secret. I posted out a message to all the counties, said, look, I'm going to do this. Is anybody up for doing it over a space of 2 weeks so that every county gets an opportunity to do it? And it becomes a bit of a national initiative. And not one person came back to me, which is sad.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I kind of went, well, look, we're going to do it. We're going to do it anyway. And I've actually been genuinely surprised by the traction that it's caused. How successful it will be, we will see when we play Sussex. But what I would hope is that we can actually report back on that success, and hopefully with the support of the ECB and other counties, then they actually go, do you know what? Let's do those 2 weeks, whenever it is, in April, May, or whenever the schedule allows, that's dedicated, that we all give away 1,000, 4,000, 10,000, whatever tickets it is, to try and get new audiences into Tasting County Championship cricket. Why wouldn't we do that? It's simple, it's straightforward, it's not rocket science. So go for it. And by just literally getting a bum on a seat, giving them a good experience, who knows, that they then become a lifetime fan of the club, and the values of that are brilliant. So I'm kind of very passionate with the Cricket Supporters Association and County Cricket Matters, is why don't we try and create this as a national initiative across 2 weeks, that all counties get involved and back it. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, who knows, but we're going to have a good go and we'll see what happens. How we distribute those tickets is through our commercial and company and community teams, so that we've encouraged them to sort of go to the businesses, the partners, the organisations out there and sort of say, here you go, here's tickets for the Sussex game. So for tonight, for example, I'm off to an iftar, first time ever that I shall be there, and it's with a local radio station over here. I should take a bunch of tickets and sort of say, here you go, try it, spread them amongst your network and see what happens. If people come along, enjoy the game, brilliant. We might have another Leicestershire member next year. Who knows?
Well, out of the 4,000, you only need one, don't you? And it's a success. I always used to think as well, Sean, that after the T20s, because that's a different audience you sometimes get for T20s. I suggested at Yorkshire, get people on the gates, give out leaflets when they're leaving, say, come back and see us next week when we're playing the Championship. And if you've enjoyed it today, come back and sit in the sun for a day. But that was never brought up either.
Yeah, that's a shame, because that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. I mean, me personally, I think the scheduling needs to change a little bit. But you're dead right. You know, it's that. Give them an experience, they'll come back. Like fan zone, we're introducing a fan zone here at Grace Road for the T20s and maybe the 50 overs. So we're going to try one or two things. And if you look at football clubs like Liverpool, Man City, Crystal Palace, you know, my old club, they all do fan zones, and they're incredibly successful. And yes, it's slightly different because it's cricket versus football. But why won't we do that? Why won't we try something like that where there's food, there's a bit of music, a bit of entertainment? Kids can have a bit of play. We're looking at PlayStation areas. So there's something more. There's a whole experience around the T20 days. So we're going to try it, see what happens. And I've always sort of said one of our phrases is the Academy of Cricket. And that doesn't mean just about the players coming through. It means about us always learning every single day to get better, to eventually have sellout crowds here at the ground. That's what we want. So we learn all the time to try and attract new audiences.
How conscious are you of the tag that particularly Championship cricket has got of being one man and his dog, and that kind of dismissive kind of that? How conscious are you of the online and that kind of virtual audience that you have, especially with the streams these days, the fantastic streams around the county game, people following Cricinfo, people listening to BBC Radio? You know, the people you see in the ground are only the kind of tip of the iceberg, aren't they, really?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we get about 500, 600 a day during the county championship games. I'd love that to be 5,000. But we understand work days and all that sort of thing. Great that people are tuning in to the streams. You know, I know a lot of people around the world who are Leicester fans that tune in, which is brilliant. For me, nothing better than sport, seeing it live. I think that's the thing. And if the stream, again, can be used in a way to generate more people coming, brilliant. You know, there's nothing better. And so for me, I think it's a good thing. Long may it continue. Our numbers seem to be increasing around the world. I'm pretty sure when we play India, our stream will go through the roof. But yeah, it's great. But I think all the time we have to promote there's no better experience. Great watching it on stream, but there's no better experience than watching it live at a ground.
I presume somebody in your marketing department is trying to sell an advert for that game, are they? For the stream?
So. Yeah. If they're not, they are now. Put it that
way. Going back to kind of, I mean, that perception of county cricket being not watched and unloved and kind of marginalised to a degree. I mean, I set up, I opposed the 100 because when the 100 came in, I was quite scared because although I'm a Yorkshire fan, I've had many a happy day at Worcester and at Grace Road and at Northampton, at these so-called smaller clubs. And I don't want to see them disappear. I want to see 18 continue, and to see them thrive and to see them go on into the future and for us to build cricket off the back of that. Because to me, Sean, the more clubs you have, and I know you're actually in favour of actually having more than 18, but the more clubs you have, England's not a massive country. England and Wales not a massive country, but it's a dense population centres, and you want to try and spread the tentacles of the game around that, all of the country. And as soon as you start taking clubs away, you leave kids in some counties that have got maybe 2 or 3 counties between them and their county club. And if you got a choice, and kids have got a lot of choice now, you're not going to travel 150 miles to play cricket when you can travel 5 miles and play football or something else.
Totally agree. And I think I'm an advocate for and I've said this publicly, that we should be having more cricket teams. Why wouldn't you have if they wanted to get involved, a Devon as part of the first class counties? Why wouldn't you have a Lincolnshire? Brilliant. If they can provide that those areas, those geographies that get more people involved in cricket, why wouldn't you do that? And I think
just to jump in there, I come from Lincolnshire. I grew up as a kid in Lincolnshire as a cricket fan. I got into cricket because my grandma, when she was alive, took me down to Canterbury when I was a kid and watched the Canterbury Cricket Week. And then I spent most of the summer pestering my dad to drive me to Scarborough or to Trent Bridge or somewhere, which was a long, long way away. If I'd had first class cricket on my doorstep, I'd have been there every day.
There you go. And I think that demonstrates exactly what we should be doing, really. And the more cricket we can play, the better. The more geographic spread, the better. The bigger the pool talent will actually feed through. I think it's incredibly dangerous if there is ever, and God forbid this ever happens, that they reduce the first class counties down to a franchise or.
That was one of the questions that came in from Ted. How does it make you feel as the CEO at Leicestershire when people like Aggers, who's an ex-Leicestershire player, KP, who probably would not have played certainly cricket in this country had there not been 18 counties and there'd been the opportunities for him, and other people suggesting that we take it down to 12. And when you ask people which of the 6 we're going to get rid of, Leicestershire are already always in that sentence.
Yeah, we're always one of those clubs that's kind of mentioned, and 9 times out of 10 usually the first. But I'll tell you now, not on my watch. I will fight tooth and nail if anybody ever suggested that. But
I'll tell you what, Sean, I'll come and lie in front of the bulldozer with you.
Yeah, you're dead right, absolutely right. Now, for me, it breaks my heart to hear somebody like Jonathan Agnew sort of say that the club should be reduced, especially when he was such a legend here, and we gave him everything that we could give him here, to develop his career. And look, we've got another superstar coming through, our under-19 who we've just announced, Rayan Ahmed. He's desperate to play for England under wearing a Leicestershire badge. That for me is what it's all about. He came from a state school. He wants to play for Leicestershire. He's now been rewarded with a contract. He's a long-term contract. We're so excited, and for us, that is what we want. We want more.
He's one of the few players who's moved from Nottinghamshire to Leicestershire, and not the other way around, isn't he?
I would hope there's more to come. You never know. So, but yeah, absolutely. But I do think as well that we're not. It's partly our fault because we've got to get better as a business. We've got to run our operation in the right way. We've got to look after our players, the players that we want. We've got to develop in the right way. We've got to grow as a business so that we get stronger and stronger. And that has to apply to all the first-class counties. They have to get better at how they run their business. And I think if they can do that, then cricket will prosper as well. So, you can't, it'd be very easy to sit back in a chair and just accept, we'll play cricket. You can't do that. Cricket has to get stronger, and we've got to look at how we invest, how we develop as a business, our ground, how we generate income that can then be reinvested into the club. And that's what we want to do, and even little things like technology, developing technology that we can bring into the game.
I always think there's a kind of difficulty cricket has, which football doesn't have, and some of the other sports don't have, team sports, is that you're serving two masters to a degree as a county club, aren't you? You're trying to be there for the ECB and for the England national team to produce players that, if you get them good, they go off and disappear and probably don't play for you very often.
Yeah.
And you're also trying to serve your supporters and your fan base and your members. And they're almost conflicting, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a challenge. That's a real challenge. What's your purpose? What's your niche within cricket? What is it you want to do? And I think, yeah, you're right. we've got to be a business. We've got to develop players. We've got to generate income. We've got to reinvest. We've got to get better. But by the same token, you've got to create. Our desire has got to be able to create England players. You know, that's where it's going to come from. So you're right. But there are two good reasons to actually try and develop your business, and you've got to accept that. That's the nature of the game, really.
Everything's really binary at the minute, especially on social media. But there seems to be two very distinct camps when it comes to this discussion. And it's a regular discussion at the moment on social media about the England national team. Often comes off the back of a Nash's defeat. But what are we going to do about getting England's test team stronger? Obviously, Rob Key's gone in there as the director of cricket. There's other vacancies to fill. But there seems to be some people who, and I'm one of them, who suggest, get the county stronger, build on what we've got. You know, the more players, the more opportunities, the better cricket's going to get. And if you market cricket to people that aren't currently playing it, if you bring in people from ethnic backgrounds and stuff who are at the moment a little bit marginalised, then that actually makes the game stronger. So that's the way to go. Other people are suggesting, Sean, that there are too many professional cricketers at the moment. The standard of county cricket isn't good enough. The jump to international cricket is too big. I imagine you're in my camp there, but how would you argue against people suggesting that Leicestershire doesn't have a place in the county scene because they're not strong enough, the players aren't good enough, and it's actually just diluting the product?
Yeah, of course I totally disagree that Leicestershire is not strong enough. Far from it. You know, I can look at my academy, and I know there are two or three that I'm really, really excited about that are going to come through. And one of them, as you've seen, has played in the Under-19 World Cup, and I think he's going to be a superstar for England in years.
He didn't just play in it; he lit it up, didn't he? He was fantastic.
Oh, unbelievable! And you know, he's a great player. He's got a lot to learn, and Leicestershire will deal with him carefully, develop him carefully, turn him into what we believe to be an England cricketer. We're under the jurisdiction of Paul Nixon, Claude Henderson, Jigger Naik, all those people, Dips Patel here. You know, we'll develop him what we believe to be into a proper England cricketer. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's bottom up and top down. From bottom up, what I mean by that is what I see, we have to improve our business operations within cricket. So first class counties have to get better. I do see a lot of weaknesses when I compare it to the likes of football. Football clubs are really at the sharp end of business decisions, and I think sometimes that's because owners of the businesses, they will put in £10,000, £50,000. It costs them that much a week, so their minds are incredibly focused. In cricket, we're kind of run by members, so boards are not actually losing hard cash. They're dedicated time. So maybe there is a bit grayer thinking. That said, I do believe that from the bottom up, we can improve, all of us, all the first class counties can improve to get better and better at how we run our businesses. Now, whether that's coaching, for example, we brought in a nutritionist. Nothing rocket scientist about it, but our players now eating better than they've probably ever done before. So our professionalism on the cricket side of our business is only going to improve over a period of time. And that's us as a business trying to do that. Commercially, we can get better, like you sort of said there, like leaflets or whatever it is, as people exit the gates, getting to come in, initiatives, all those sorts of things. If we continue to do all those bits and pieces, then from the bottom up, the standards of the game will naturally rise. That's going to happen. From the top down, I equally believe that we should be investing far more in technology and becoming even more professional, trying to find those marginal differences that, the likes of David Brailsford and all those people kind of talk about. We should bring that into cricket. It does exist, and I know it works at the top level because we're close to Loughborough. But we need to do more of that. We need to work harder. And I think look at other countries and how they do it. The Australian mentality, fabulous, and I think we've got to learn. If you look at people like Man City, they, as I understand it, they have a tent that can control the climate. So if Man City are drawn against a team in Poland where the temperatures are -5, they can train inside that tent at -5, so the bodies become acclimatized. Equally, if they play a team south of France, they can then climatize the conditions so that it's those little marginal differences.
So if you're going to Durham in the first week in April, you can set it to -5.
Exactly. I'll wear 4 jumpers, but I'll give you a little one that I learned from David Wagner, which was really interesting. So when Huddersfield Town had a game on, say, a Tuesday night, at 7:45 kickoff, the light would be very different. So what he used to do, all his training schedules would then shift to accommodate that timescale. So the players wouldn't be coming in at 9 o'clock in the morning. They'd be coming later on in the day and training so that their eyes and their mentality then starts to align with the game at 7:45 on the Tuesday night. So even little things like that can make a huge difference. And I think that's where cricket's got to go. It's got to try and work out those differences. Easier said than done, I know, but it's little things like that, those marginal differences that we can improve on from the bottom and from the top.
Things like that you don't think about until somebody says it, and then you think that's actually really sensible, isn't it? It's just it's like when you see people on Dragon's Den and they come in with something really easy, but it's very investable because it's so obvious. One of the things I often see with people who are sort of the counter argument to us, I guess, is what do a team like Leicestershire, you wouldn't survive without the ECB handouts, as they call them. What would be your reaction to that?
Yeah, right here, right now, I wouldn't argue with them. And we, like a lot of the clubs, will rely on the ECB support. And to a degree, that's the same in football. Would Fleetwood Town or Halifax Town produced a Jamie Vardy without the support of the FA and the all that sort of funds from that game? And I think that's what we've got to do. We've got to try and reduce our dependency on the ECB, of course. But again, that comes back to being a bit more sophisticated and intelligence in our business systems and how we approach things. But I do like the concept of leagues. I think it may have been Rob Key that talked about 2 divisions and then a top division. Now, I like that. I think that's great. Competition is healthy. And if people talk about having an elite, yeah, great. Premier League. And Jamie Vardy went through that process. He went from, as I say, Halifax, Fleetwood, Leicester City. So, there's nothing wrong in that. You just got to be competitive in that league and make sure you're competitive in the league to win that league.
So somebody I saw on Twitter this morning actually came up with something I've not actually thought about, comparing that ECB handout subsidy argument to football, saying, well, Leeds United, my team, currently 16th in the Premier League, somewhere around there. Not a great season, but they'll get a cut of the TV money. Yeah, they haven't won anything. They're not. They're producing an England player in Calvin Phillips, I guess, but they've not won anything, and yet they're still getting paid for being in that division and being a football club in that at that level, aren't they? So on that basis, the 18 first-class counties, there's nothing different. And the another thing I always think, Sean, as well with that, I hate that term, the handout subsidy tag to it, because to a degree, and to varying degrees, the 18 counties work with the ECB, work for the ECB, provide players for the ECB, and it's almost like a payment for that service as well.
Correct. It's absolutely right. And I think it's then how the clubs use that payment to develop its business. And each year goes by it should try and improve to then reduce its dependency on that handout or payment, however you want to describe it. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That for us is not necessarily, we don't see it as keeping us alive. We actually see it as investment in the club to develop those players like Ray and Ahmed, Harry Swindles, Ben Mike, that are kind of coming through. That's what it's about. But by the same token, we can't rely on that. You cannot just sit back and go, right, we'll take the money, thank you very much. We have got a duty to develop our business that means that the dependency on that is reduced.
Paul on Twitter, it's more of a comment from Paul. I know you saw this, but he says, as a visiting supporter this week, it was last week actually when he wrote this, he would like to thank your staff who were very, very helpful. I guess that's nice to hear as well. And like in all businesses, you're the chief executive, you're at the top of the tree, but you got some staff underneath you who are working their socks off to make it all happen.
Dead right. They're the ambassadors of the club. So when I hear that kind of feedback, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. By the same token, on some social media say had a bad experience, and you can't be afraid of that. You've got to then grab that and try and work out, well, how do we make it better? Our cake here at Leicestershire is renowned. Our food in the Charles Palmer Suite is regarded as one of the best, and that there's too little standards. So right, let's get the cricket standards higher. Let's get the commercial standards higher. And we call something Gold Fox standards. So our emblem is a running fox. It's red, which is great. We actually say, right, we want our staff, whether that be Lewis Hill out in the middle of the pitch or Hannah Bradford in the catering operation, to deliver Gold Fox standards. And we've got to challenge ourselves to say, is that Gold Fox standards? And if it's not, right, let's make it Gold Fox standards. And I think by doing that, then again, the standards of your business just increase, and hopefully that generates more income. So hearing things like that tells me, brilliant, we're hitting Gold Fox standards, but you've got to sustain it. Champions about sustainability, not one-off hits.
Another question from Ted. Have Leicestershire done anything differently since the Azim Rafiq DCMS hearing and the fallout in terms of the racism in cricket stuff at Yorkshire? But it's obviously, not confined just to Yorkshire. In terms of inclusivity, I mean, obviously Leicester is incredibly multicultural. Obviously, you represent the entire county and there'll be different levels of ethnicity throughout. But it seems to be a hotbed and a real opportunity for the game and an opportunity for your club.
Absolutely, and there is a wind change going through the game, and I think it was very uncomfortable, wasn't it, at sort of going through that process and seeing all those uncomfortable comments that were made. But there is positivity coming out of it, and that's what I think is now beginning to happen. There's still an awful lot of work to be done, and I can give you something that we're doing here at Leicestershire. It's prompted me to create a position here at the club, and I'm pretty sure we're probably the first. I may be wrong on that one, but I'm pretty sure where we're having a community and EDI, exclusive, equality, diversity, and inclusion officer, director, so who will oversee our whole community department. So, that is a completely new position. And I want that person to really not just necessarily deliver programs of cricket, but actually really get integrated with the community and be part of the community. I'll do my bit. I can only do so much because I've got a million and one other things to do. But, the remit of that individual will be to understand the community. And here in Leicestershire, we've got, I think it is 56 different nationalities. And within those nationalities, you'll have different caste systems and cultures and religion. So it's about really understanding that and hopefully engaging those individuals in cricket. Sport, I think, is brilliant because it can be a melting pot for whoever you are, whatever background, whatever gender you are. Sport holds no barriers. So come to a game, football, cricket, rugby, whatever it is. It doesn't matter, and I want that to be the case. So I think what's gone on has gone on. We've now got to learn, we've got to develop, we've got to evolve, and be part of it. And I think, as I sort of said, I'm off to. I'm a Roman Catholic, so I gave up biscuits and chocolate for Lent, 40 days, 40 nights. Brilliant. That's since gone. I've put the pounds back on, having done that. But I've been invited to an iftar tonight. So I'm going. Can't wait to go. Be interesting to see. Fascinating. It's part of learning and understanding. And my team have been invited to another one that's been held in Leicester in a couple of days. They'll be going to that. And we said, well, why don't we hold one here at Leicestershire and give it a cricket theme? So I think, things like that, again, will evolve as we go along. But the key is about learning all the time, engaging and learning. And we must do that. We must do that here at Leicestershire. And, what I am really pleased about is some of the initiatives that we're doing. We're seeing some great work taking shape. Of course, it's then about bums on seats and our business developing and evolving. And we'll see, that will evolve over a period of time. Again, it's not a flick of a switch. It's going to take many years to sort of really develop our all-inclusivity, if you like.
I know Azim quite well. I worked at Yorkshire when Azim was there, and I helped him. He came, actually, his story partially broke because he came on this podcast. But I wouldn't. I mean, what you've just said there is great. I mean, you obviously talk to other people around the game. I'm yet to be convinced that the entire game has really got the gravity of the situation in terms of race. Can you see that from your conversation? I'm not asking you to name names of people, but can you see that from conversations you've had, or do you think the game fully understands what it needs to do now?
I think I agree with you. I think it's still learning, and it's not going to happen overnight. We want it to happen quicker, and there's going to be challenges along the way. That's natural. But I think if leaders of the game can lead and demonstrate and not just do, and again, it's not just kind of one-offs, it's sustained programs, it's constant, and that will just gain more and more momentum. Must never, ever, it's like us trying to generate more bums on seats. I don't care who that is, what background they are. I want a bum on a seat to support Leicestershire County Cricket Club. And it's how we do that. Now, I don't have the answers. We've got a club ambassador, Nikesh Ragani. So he's going to help us and educate us on how we communicate into certain audiences. And, that are arguably cricket friendly. I also want to communicate to audiences that aren't cricket friendly and say, come on, try it, experience it. If you don't like it, but great. But I think the key is to be sustained in the approach. You can't just do one initiative and go, that's it, I've done it, great, tick a box, we move on. You just can't do that. You've got to be at it all the time. And that's tough. That is tough. But we've all got to do that. We've all got to try and drive the game forward in whatever way we can, really.
Final question, Sean, and it's a pleasure to have you on the Cricket Badger podcast today. Enjoyed our chat. You mentioned Loughborough earlier. Loughborough's renowned UK-wide has been one of the centres for sport. How much do you work with them? How do you use them? How do you interact with them? And what benefits are there of having that on your doorstep?
Yeah, great question. And thank you, James. I've loved it. It's been great to chat, and hopefully I'm trying to bring something a little bit fresh to cricket, and I'm a bit of a challenger, and Leicestershire is a challenger brand, if you like. We've got to bite at the heels of arguably some of the bigger clubs and maybe show the way in other ways. But I think for me it's tough, it's hard, but cricket has got a real bright future. I lost train of thought. Your question. Come back to your question.
Loughborough.
Sorry, Loughborough. Yes. In answer to your question, not enough. We've got 3 universities on our doorstep: DMU, Leicester University, and Loughborough. in the past, we've had a very good relationship with DMU, and we still have. And their cricket teams come down here in our indoor schools. And I think in the past, what's happened, that's been detrimental to any relationships with Loughborough or University of Leicester. Well, I've reached out to both the University of Leicester and Loughborough and told DMU that I'm doing this as well. And actually, you're finding that, no, we really want to be part of your journey. We don't want to step on people's toes and this, that, and the other, but there are ways in doing it. So I'm actually now having a really good dialogue with both the University of Leicester and Loughborough, as well as DMU, of course, about how we can help each other. And I think they've got an awful lot to offer Leicestershire County Cricket Club. And if my plans come to fruition, hopefully in the next sort of 6 months, you might see one or two other exciting things that we're trying to develop and build on. So I can't say much more than that, but it is about building a brighter future for the club. And I do see the Universities of Leicester involved in that.
Sean, bright futures. Hopefully you have one. Hopefully you have one in 2022. In the summer, the sun shines on you. Hopefully it extends beyond that as well. Thank you very much for your time today. Wish you all success on the pitch and off it as you go through the rest of this year.
James, that's very kind of you. Thank you. Yeah, keep an eye out for us. We might. We've got a lot of work to do, but we're heading in the right direction. We're kind of analysing, leaving no stone unturned to sort of move the club forward. And who knows, we might surprise one or two people.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody. And I will see you again very soon indeed. Cheers all.